Evening, everyone, and welcome back to BLB's broadcast of bed-based banter, Nintendo at Night. I am your exhausted co-host, Tucker Hazel, and that is the other co-host, Abram Buhner. He looks tucked in, comfy, ready to talk some Nintendo. How you
Honk
feeling, Abram?
shoe.
He's
Honk
certainly in
shoe.
honk shoe mood tonight because this is definitely being recorded at night.
No, I'm in Australia. I've got an Australian friend and I'm visiting them, and so it's the morning right now for me because there's a 12-hour difference.
That's a great point.
It's
That's a
been
great point.
recorded at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time.
But otherwise, yes, this is Nintendo at Night, the second installment in our weekly Nintendo show, 193 days after the publishing of the first episode. But it's back for now, possibly on a monthly basis. We'll see. But to celebrate the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, we wanted to talk about Pokemon and especially our memories with the series, something that has been very important to us for a very long time, as well as to many members of our community, because this show is primarily based around responses from the community and the, close to 8, 10, whatever I was able to gather in the past week are all going to be read here. We're going to discuss them and then spin off into our own thoughts and sharing our own personal memories with the Pokemon franchise. So if you want to be in the next installment of Nintendo at Night within the next 194 days, you can subscribe to Backlog Banter. You can join our Discord. We have a Nintendo at Night channel where you can submit your own submissions, and you can like the video. You can ring the channel. All those crazy things.
Yep.
Abram,
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon is very important to both of us. It is both of our one of our top media franchises on the planet,
Yeah,
certainly one of our favorite
definitely.
video game franchises, and I have a lot of personal memories with Pokemon. It's probably the most important thing to like my childhood development, frankly.
Yeah.
School, parents. I had a DS though, and that really got me going.
I think the number one thing that was good in my development was my Flintstones vitamins.
Sure,
But
yeah,
I
that
think
made you as strong and burly as you are today.
second to my Flintstones vitamins was Pokemon.
Mm,
But I didn't actually begin my journey as a Pokemon fan as a fan of the games. It
sure,
was it was the anime and the cards and the toys because before I even had any sort of video game system, I would watch the Pokemon anime whenever I was home sick from school or on the
sure.
weekends and had a lot of the toys. I lived in a rural and I say that as though I'd live somewhere else now, but my family's house in Maine is in a rural area, so I could go outside
The
and
entire
put
continent of Australia is rural, which is of
right.
course where
Well,
you
that's
are.
where I am right at the moment, but my
Yeah.
my home back in Maine. So like I could take my water type Pokemon toys and put them in a little stream by my house and pretend that that's where they lived, or put the other ones in the grass and the
The
forest and
babbling
everything.
brook,
The
the
babbling
glistening
brook.
glade that you lived by.
Yes. So I've got a lot of memories in that respect with Pokemon. Sort of, I think about Pokemon actually in a lot of the ways I think about Star Wars, where for me, Star Wars isn't just a film series. Like it just is like this sort of living and breathing universe because I understood it through
Oh
so
yeah,
many like multimedia avenues, and it's the exact same for me for Pokemon.
absolutely. Yeah, I am pretty much in the same boat. Not in that I lived by a babbling brook or a glistening glade, like Mr. Fairy Tale Land over here. But I grew up with the Pokemon anime and cards before I owned any video game system. My first, frankly, my first Christmas slash gift memory is Christmas morning waking up to a Pikachu plushie in my bed with me, and which had not owned until that morning. And I was like, what the hell is this? And also receiving a couple packs of Pokemon cards, I would believe is Pokemon World Championships 2005 or six or whatever. It's got this purple back on it with like a yellow ring around. I can't remember, but uh, I had a dark Pupitar and a dark Tyranitar and a
Yeah.
Jirachi card. Like I specifically remember these cards because I looked at them so much because of some of the few toys that I had for my entire childhood because I never got rid of any of it. And it just continued to grow and grow and grow. And as we'll talk about when we after we talk about our communities segment, more of the things that this sprouted into in our love for Pokemon.
Yeah, I'll never have any other opportunity to there's a recitation I'd like to do in honor of
Sure.
particularly the card game. Do you know Jay Witz?
Yeah, I was a J Wentz watcher.
Did you ever watch Prophet?
Nope. I don't know what that
Well,
means.
well, at the beginning of every episode of Prophet, Jay Witz would rap the intro to the song. You go, "You Reggie Rocket with my profit and hopeless poke projects. You won't stop till you bop to the top with all the hop hips. Hip with the meta game, train the running top kids at the top of his game, and you can hit him on top this. You want a Mesprit? I suggest you profit. You want the best tricks? I suggest you profit. Once it starts to roll, and you know you can't stop it. Let's go and get some lessons with Jay Witz and Profit. Yeah."
Now, can you explain to me what profit is?
No, I can't.
Was it profit as in like Jesus or profit as in like money?
Profit was spelled PROF-IT in the Pokemon font, and it
Okay.
was
Professor It.
yeah, it was a show that ran kind of concurrently the time that we were children of the not the corn, but of the era of
Sure.
mid late 2000s Pokemon, which Jaywitz would talk about the
Children of the
competitive scene.
Apricorn.
And I remember that so clearly that I didn't have anyone to actually play the card game with.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, when I got later in middle school, when probably my first best friend, we used to play the actual card game all the time. But as a kid, I was content just watching Jay Witz's videos about Heart Gold, Soul Silver era TCG metagames
Sure.
like the Sable Donk deck and things like that.
All of
And
this goes entirely over my head.
I just fucking collect my cards, put them in a little binder, watch
Yeah.
my show, and that'd
Yeah.
be that.
Well, on that wonderful tangent, that is probably not really relevant. I'm sure not relevant today, but not relevant to the majority of our audience. But that's what this is for. Personal stories.
Yeah.
Let's start off with our first community submission from the first person who responded to me when I talked about wanting people's opinions on Pokemon, their favorite memories, why it's important to them. John Hansen from Pixel Street Videos replied.
Also a Abram Eve co-conspirator.
That's a great point. Yeah, he was a friend of the show, John Hansen. He says that my favorite memory is working my way up Silver Mountain in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and battling Red, the protagonist from Red, Blue, and Yellow. The entire cross-region journey in those games was massive for those days, and the end battle was so much more climactic than it looks now. Now, neither of us played the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal.
No.
Or at least to any significant degree. I have a copy of Silver somewhere, and I've played like the first few routes, but those games are pre us. BCA before Abram Christ.
Wait, no. When did Crystal come out?
Crystal?
2000, right?
Sure, yeah, but you weren't born yet.
I was born in December 2000, so probably just
Yeah,
I
probably
just
not.
missed it.
Yeah. But regardless, what I'm trying to insinuate is Gold, Silver, and Crystal and the cultural impact and resonance that has with the generation slightly before us does not impact us on a particularly large level personally, because we didn't grow up with that. Our first generations were 4, 5, and to some extent 3, and then going into the ones that came out when we were really cognizant of Pokemon in 6, 7, and now 8, and Legends Arceus and all that. But I'm fully aware of how important playing through 2 regions was to older Pokemon players, how crazy that was, the epicness of battling the original game's trainer on the top of a mountain. Like, that's all awesome. But unfortunately, it kind of from our slightly more modern perspective and not having grown up with it, it's like I see that, but I can only recognize it through other people's eyes.
Yeah, I think I was trying to think of an analogous moment for me, and it probably would have been being the Elite Four in Pokemon White.
Sure.
Because my first Pokemon game was Blue Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah.
My grandma got it for me. My grandma has no fucking idea what's a mainline Pokemon game and what isn't. And so when that DX remake got announced, I was over the fucking moon. Just those musical cues of Blue Rescue Team, man, those are special to me. But my first Pokemon game proper was Platinum, and I never beat it.
Still to this day.
To this day, I think I've beaten platinum. Yes.
I'm sure you have at some point in your life.
Yeah. But the one that was really monumental is when I beat white.
Sure.
And I beat white with a traded knock towel that I got
Mm,
because I was still a fucking idiot and didn't really know how to play Pokemon yet. But my mom used to tutor. She used to be a tutor, a math tutor, and so she'd tutor this little kid, and the kid's older sister would come over sometimes and just stay at our house while her brother's being tutored, and we'd play Pokemon together. And she traded me this knock towel.
yeah.
And I was like, this guy, look at this motherfucker. He's more powerful than anything else I had. And I just used him to like roll through the rest of the game with.
Mhm.
So it's nowhere near as cool as climbing Mount Silver, but for me, it was pretty badass taking this knock towel I got from Andrea. I have no idea what happened to her. It's
I,
all the way through the
I'm going
chapter.
to wager a guess that she is perfectly fine and she is doing okay in a middle class job somewhere in America.
Well, my insinuation is not that she's passed on, but that that I haven't talked to her in probably a decade, a little bit more than a decade.
My headcanon is that she's an entirely unremarkable and average person that exists somewhere out there in the continental United States.
Man, I can't wait to be back to those.
Oh yeah, because you're not. Yeah, yeah. I actually, funny enough, have a quite similar memory for my first Pokemon game. Now, this is going to really frame who I was as a video game player when I was 6. Is I have Pokemon Pearl, my very first video game, Nintendo DS Lite. Me and my brother absolutely obsessed with Pokemon anime and the cards and have all these plushies and everything. But I don't really know how to play video games at this point in my life. I don't know that you can look things up online. I don't know that there are guidebooks. I don't know that exploration is important. So this is frankly pretty embarrassing, but we'll go through it anyway. Pokemon Pearl starts. You leave Twin Leaf Town. You go to Lake Valor. You go to Sanjum Town, and then Dawn gives you Pokeballs, and you have to go
Mhm.
back to your mom to say, "Hey, I'm leaving. Give me the running shoes, and I'll get the hell out of there." I never went back to my mom, so I was stuck in Sanjum Town and the first route and a half of the game for probably 6 months of my life, just like wandering around, very confused. I thought I was completely stuck. Thought the game was broken. Whatever.
It's funny you say that actually to cut in quickly. In the older Pokemon games in Gen 4, I think it stopped Gen 5. If your Pokemon was poisoned in your party, they would take damage as you walked, but
Yes,
the
yes,
screen would
yes.
go black and it would like cut in bars back and forth. I
Oh, it
thought
would
my
it would
copy was
it would
broken.
flash like that.
It was something, yeah. I have not I don't really understand the passage of time when I was a child. I can barely
Sure.
remember the
Yeah.
time frame, but I distinctly remember like you thinking my game was broken because the screen kept fucking up.
Hmm, hmm. But so it took again, it was about 6 months, and then I was finally on a family trip off in Tennessee with my dad's friends and their kids, and their kids are slightly older, and they knew how Pokemon worked pretty substantially. So they taught me what was going on. I then subsequently got stuck at Mars's Perugly at the Valley One Works for another, indiscriminate period of time. But finally, after that, I was traded by my dad's friend's son, who I don't remember his name at this point in my life, but he gave me
Donahue.
he gave me from his platinum game, having come from his Gen 3 games, he gave me Breloom, Ditto, and Kyogre, all way too high level for to listen to me. But do you think I cared? Absolutely the hell not. I had these Pokemon on my team for the entire game, and I steamrolled everything. They could tank all the hits even when they weren't listening to me. And I beat the Elite Four with like Breloom, Kyogre, Ditto, Roserade, Torterra, and Staraptor or something. My team was entirely almost half consistent of Pokemon that were not native to the Sinnoh region, were not from my own games, were too high level. But that's how I beat probably beat my first video game, frankly,
Nice.
through cheese and getting stuck and being taught by other people. And it was certainly a learning experience, but I was so ingrained in that world and didn't mind being stuck that it was never a source of real frustration to me
Tucker, I'm going to hit you the next memory here. It's
from
from,
someone else.
yes. This comes from Tiffany Lestrella at Tiffstar on Twitter, who says, when I was in the 5th grade for an assignment, I wrote a fan letter to the Pokemon Company and they replied back and sent me a bunch of cool stickers. Also, my very first Pokemon card was a holographic Charizard. Wish I still had either of those things. Dot dot dot.
Now, I just wanted to double check. Her Twitter username is actually Tiff Stardust. I just didn't type the dust part when I first put her thing in here.
You're a
But
man of efficiency.
exactly, yeah, I just had Twitter open on the other. I was about to say Tinder. That's not right.
That's open on your phone.
My phone's off. So this is interesting because I've always heard stories of people talking to companies through letters and stuff, but I probably didn't know how mail worked until I was about 17 years old. So I certainly did not mail anything to the Pokemon company, but this is certainly a fun story.
I actually have a story like this. It's not about Pokemon, but I'll also share it. Um, my mom, her best friend, who she's known forever, used to come every summer with her children. And her son, Miles, and I were both enormous Star Wars fans. We both loved Battlefront, and this was the era of the Clone Wars TV show.
Mm,
And we were like, why the fuck is there not a Battlefront game with Clone Wars characters and things in it?
sure.
And so we wrote literally probably 8 pages of notes and map ideas and stuff to make a Battlefront game with Clone Wars characters.
Mhm.
We wrote some of these notes because we first came up with the idea for this in the car, and we wrote in like little picto chat messages some of our ideas,
Sure.
and then translated all this shit into paper. Terrible child, dumb handwriting, eating French toast sticks as we're doing this.
Yeah.
Mailed it to Lucasfilm, or not, it was LucasArts at the time,
Mhm.
LucasArts, and they mailed back a letter saying that they love the idea, but they can't make another Battlefront game right now. And they gave us fridge magnets, like a Darth Vader fridge magnet, like you go to fridge magnet and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, sure. A 20-cent thing that they had lying around the office.
Yes. But
Oh God.
that's very cool. My first Pokemon card, I think of any kind of repute that I remember, was also with this kid, Miles. We exchanged Pokemon card tins, or
Sure.
more aptly, my mom bought
The like octagonal ones.
yeah, our
Yeah.
parents coordinated. They both got us tins and we traded. And this was the era of level X cards.
Sure.
So I had an Infernape level X card that I was very impressed by.
Yeah, there was X, EX,
Now we're into
GX.
GX, level X. They were the cards with hard gold,
Yeah.
soul silver, which were a little bit before I started playing. Actually, this might not be true. Like I said, I don't understand how time passes a child.
It
But there
doesn't
were
matter. It's still one of your
yeah,
memories.
there were the cards. It was like you would put two legendaries together like this way.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Oh,
hamburger instead of hot dog.
Entei and Raikou, Entei and Suicune. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had one of those.
Lugia
So.
and I think it was Ho and Lugia. I remember
Yeah,
having that
Lugia
one.
and Chimchar, I think.
It's like a read another memory.
All right. I thought you might laugh, make fun of me, do a classic Abram return quip. Who knows? But our next comment comes from Crisp, who says, I just remember playing Platinum with my friend Connor for an entire summer. I had the big guidebook and we would pore over it for hours. That first Pokemon adventure was so powerful for me, and going through it with my friend by my side was incredible. Now, Crisp, I can completely relate to you on this because I too had that giant platinum handbook with the silver spine and the red going down sides, and I loved that thing. It's still on my shelf at home in Texas, and it is absolutely falling apart because that is the only Pokemon guide or video game guidebook that I ever. It's not the only one I ever had, but it's the only one I ever used consistently
Yeah.
because not only did it have details on every single route in the game and where you could find every item and that kind of thing, but in the back was a Pokedex with every level that every Pokemon learned, every move, how they evolved, where you could catch them at what times of day, and that kind of stuff. And well, I believe at the time I probably would have known how to use like Bulbapedia or Cerebi.
Mm.
I didn't because I had this paper thing. And what the hell else was I gonna do? Was I gonna not use it? No way. So I used that thing to absolute death.
I could only use the computer to navigate to Winnie the Pooh flash games. Which
Played a
is
lot of
why
Flash games in my day. Dan Ball, Nitrome,
mine were all licensed
Mini
that I
Clip.
played.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
I I distinctly remember I had two Pokedex books like that. One for black and white, which I used a lot of, and
Mm.
then one that I doubly used a lot of was the one that came after for X and Y.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Black and White 2, I believe, was the only other one I ever really had.
I just loved having the books because I would play a lot of Pokemon in the car, and this I think this was before I had a cell phone. So I would just you like cross-reference that book while I was playing. Because I had a 45-minute drive to school and back every day, which is where I got a lot of hours in especially X and Y. But to the point about playing a Pokemon game alongside someone else, for me that was X and Y, which came at a really weird time in my life where I was switching schools
Mm.
um, because my mom got a job at a different school that was much further away from my house. So it's basically leaving everything I kind of knew behind. But Pokemon ended up being the one through line for me because it kept me connected to my best friend from that old school. But it's also what let me make friends with the people at my new middle school.
Mm.
And that school started September 2013. X and Y launched October 2013. And so the way I met my best friends there is I was in an art class with them one day, and they were like, I'm going to pick Froakie. I'm going to pick Chespin. And I knew, I was like, I identified, and I said, you are my friends now. And it ended up that way because of X and Y. So that's,
Yeah.
I think, the first and last time that I really played a Pokemon game alongside people,
Mm.
more than just being on Twitter
Yeah, sure, of
or in
course.
games media when a new Pokemon game comes out.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories playing with people on Pokemon because Pokemon was my primary connection to my friends. John Schwab, Nicholas D'Souza, all these classic names in Tucker Hazel lore. Playing Pokemon with them was the biggest part of our relationships. And that even carried through to, while I didn't have a 3DS when X and Y came out,
Mhm.
I had gotten it 8 months later, something like that. And I was able to be completely in the hype cycle and announcement and reveal and stuff of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And
Yeah,
that was the first game, not the first one that I bought for myself, not the first one that I got really into, obviously, but the first one that me and my friends collectively got into. And
sure.
I remember clear as the day is long, the day when Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and Smash 4 Wii U both came out. And we got off our band trip on that Friday, had someone drive us to GameStop, all picked up our copies of these games, drove home to one of my friend's houses, pulled an all-nighter, just starting Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, like five of us in the loft together, just up the entire night playing these games. And just that's one of my greatest like group memories because we're just starting this together. We dressed up all our, well, oh wait, no, you couldn't dress up your characters in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but we dressed up all our characters in X and Y. We had got like matching outfits, which is really fun. But that's my biggest group Pokemon experience for sure. But one other thing that I wanted to talk about when you're talking about Pokemon books is a very specific Pokemon book I remember having as a kid. And I was doing a little research to find it, but it was called Let's Find Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. And it was essentially a Pokemon I Spy book. Uh, and each page was like a different route with all these Pokemon hand drawn across it, and you would just like pick out the ones that were everywhere. And I wasn't just looking for the ones that were like, hey, find Ludicolo, find Spinda, whatever. I would just go through and name all of them because I was that kind of Pokemon nerd.
That's cool. I remember I had a box of all kinds of like novelizations of the movies and such that I'd read before I
Really?
went to bed. Yeah.
Wow. I had, just to speak more about Pokemon books, I had a couple different kinds of the Pokemon manga. I read a
Yeah.
lot of the Pokemon manga through the
Adventures, was
library.
that the one?
I don't remember
Yeah.
specifically what they were called, but I had the first like 5 or 6 issues of the original ones
Yeah.
with red and blue and green.
That was
Um,
Adventures. I had that too.
then I also had, and this was the classic with me and my brother growing up, the one based in Sinnoh with the boy character who I can't remember his name. It certainly wasn't Lucas. But he was always really hungry. That was like his personality trait. He's basically like Goku. And he made friends with this Team Rocket grunt because he bit his, this is not a joke, he bit his ass, and the guy's ass like ballooned up and became really big and jiggly. And this is a real thing in Pokemon manga. And they were like best buds and they would do like butt bumps. It's a really strange memory.
Isn't that how you met Tanner?
But the one final thing was that there was a rescue team manga
Yeah,
where the main character got turned into a Torchic, and I had a couple issues of that. But I never finished any of these mangas because I didn't know how to find manga online when I was a kid. I certainly didn't know how to go out and purchase manga in Austin, Texas in 2012 or whatever. But I read those a lot.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh Christ.
Alex Cozina from Press YYZ says, I've always loved the Pokemon games for the sense of companionship that they provide. My team of pocket monsters might just be bits and bytes, but when I'm scouring the depths of a dastardly dungeon or a challenging gym, they're almost like family. This becomes doubly true when I'm knee-deep in the series' challenging post-game areas, like Emerald's Battle Frontier, which put everything I know about Pokemon battling to the test. In those wickedly difficult locales, I must always form an everlasting appreciation for the elite Pokemon teams that bring me to victory in them.
Now, I'm actually interested to hear your sort of spin off your experience with this kind of stuff
Mhm.
because I have never played the battle areas or battle frontiers or anything for any
Mhm.
Pokemon game because and frankly, I've mentioned this before in other content, but the battling in Pokemon is by far my least favorite aspect of it. I'm not good at it. I'm not particularly interested in it. The
Yeah,
turn-based aspect is not very engaging to me. So I like it when I can just spam bubble and peck and beat the game. Uh,
sure.
and so I never engaged with those aspects of the games.
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know if I ever did that sort of post game stuff. I did a lot of Wi-Fi battling, which is the sort of
Mm,
battling I would do in post games. Again, with my best friend from middle school, we did a ton of that. But the kind of direction I was going to take this in is that for me, the Pokemon are like friends in a sense. And there have certainly been points in my life when I felt lonely switching to a new school or
mm.
stretched out because of X, Y, and Z and raising a
There
team of
wasn't a
Pokemon.
Z game. There's only X and Y. He's embarrassed. He actually thought that Z was a real Pokemon game. Silly guy.
And raising these Pokemon, there's like a sense of comfort in it. Like this is my team and these are my friends.
Hmm.
Um, which sounds way sadder than it really was. But it's just sort of like I think that's sort of the appeal of RPGs in general. You come to really know and love your party members. But in the case of Pokemon, it's not just some fucking drunk bard you meet at the bottom of some kind of well in a town. It's this little Pokemon creature that you raised up from like level one to
Hmm.
whatever, and you named them and you saw them evolve and everything. And so I think that really is a cornerstone of why this franchise is so special.
Yeah, I agree. Because I love Pokemon, and some of my favorite specific Pokemon are the ones that were quote unquote my partner Pokemon for a game. Whether or not it was my starter, I almost always have for each game like an iconic Pokemon that was my pal for
Yeah.
that game. Let me see. I think I'm a fucking nerd. So I'm in my notes on my hold on my computer slash phone. I believe I have a list of each Pokemon character that I've played as. Yes,
Of
and my partner
course you do.
Pokemon. Oh wait, no, I it's not the partner Pokemon, but it's got my what starter I chose. So and something about me that personally endears me more to the world and the characters is that I've always created a character to play
Sure.
as. I only time I ever played as myself was my first Pokemon game, Pearl, and then subsequently I played as Tucker in BDSP, which was a negative experience because that game sucks. But uh, characters like my Heart Gold character, Fawn, or Leo in my Black game, um, Moxie and Autumn in X and Y, Amias and Sun and Moon, Willow and Ultra Sun. Like I always had some sort of character with my Masquerain and Omega Ruby, my Talonflame in X and Y. Like these pairings of this character I created and their best friend was it was like creating my own show, creating my own anime, and writing
Yeah.
the story for these characters. And if Autumn and Moxie and X and Y were obsessed with the berry farm and the breeding and going up and down that long town, because that's what I was, that was their story and that was their characters, and the Pokemon they had with them were part of their adventure. And creating that is always something that I've loved about Pokemon as a sort of open-ended, not necessarily particularly story-focused RPG, is you can find a creation of your own in these games.
That's really cool. I've never actually, it's never even crossed my mind to play Pokemon that way,
Mm,
because for me, it's always been having my own life in the Pokemon universe, you know. So I
mm,
am always Abram when I play, and when trainer customization was implemented, I did my best to look like myself and
interesting.
wear things that I would wear in real life if I could, right? Just because I liked that feeling of, yeah, I biked up and down that same path in X and Y all the time too, but so I could hatch more Pokemon for Abram Buhner's Pokedex, you know.
Sure.
But I think that's another really interesting way to play, and I would hope that, I don't want to turn this into a criticism of Legends Arceus show, which
Mhm.
will come in our review soon enough. But that game lets you make like completely in ineffectual like dialogue narrative choices,
Sure. Yeah.
um, which are basically pointless in that game. But I would love to see a proper, not a traditional Western RPG like Nice Republic or Outer
Mm,
Worlds or something, but a Pokemon game that you have that kind of agency to be the bird keeper, or
sure.
be the
Yeah.
breeder or something. I think
Hmm.
that'd be really fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. We've got a couple more. Wanna read the
Do
other
they
one?
deserve it though? Do you think they deserve to be read?
Absolutely.
It's your turn, by the way.
Oh, that's true. I forgot that you existed, frankly. Um, this comes from Austin Ernst from Shared Screens, who I actually reviewed Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl with. It was a fun discussion with him and Jordan Deeb. Although, damn, wish I'd gotten Jordan's response here. But from Austin, he says, oddly enough, the thing that I would always go back to is that episode when Ash and his with Ash and his Butterfree. I cried. Hell, probably still would. I was a casual fan before then, but something out of that episode blossomed what I now characterize as my love for the world of Pokemon.
Bye Bye Butterfree, an iconic episode.
Absolutely an iconic episode. Yeah.
My understanding of the anime is very non-linear because the Diamond and Pearl anime was on TV when I was watching the show. But the Cartoon Network, I believe, is the channel that would play it. They would just as often play old episodes, or I'd look for them
Yeah.
online. And so there's episodes I missed, even though I was watching the show so regularly. It's not like they're playing the back series in order. So
Of
like
course not. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen Bye Bye Butterfree. I distinctly remember being afraid to look up the Porygon seizure episode because I thought it would give me a seizure.
I have sort of halfway that memory. Like I
Yeah,
thought maybe, but I'm like, but then I think that only lasted for a second. I'm like, "Mm, I'm a strong boy. I can take it.
maybe that'd be a fun BLBS segment. See who can watch it the longest, like getting a seizure.
That's a fun stream incentive.
It's a fun Mr. Beast challenge. Last person that get a seizure wins $1 million.
Oh Christ. Well, the thing about iconic episodes of the anime now, I was a Pokemon anime fan to the extent that it was certainly what my TV watching when I was a kid was focused on.
Sure.
Um, I watched a couple other shows, but on the whole, I was not a television child in general, which is part of my disconnect from that medium today. It's one of the classic Tucker Hazelisms is TV's not that fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I think that's also partly why I fell off of Pokemon. The idea of having to come back every week or have to watch there's so much of the Pokemon anime. There's so much of
It's
it.
horse shit. How
Um,
much there is.
that I just never really committed fully. But one of the most memorable like childhood moments for me actually it comes from the Pokemon anime, which is my birthday when I'm 11. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it would be even younger than that. But was during the Diamond and Pearl anime running, Ash's Staraptor or Staravia evolved into our Staraptor on the morning of my birthday. And I had all my friends with me, and we woke up from a sleepover. My mom made us pancakes and eggs. We ran downstairs to watch the Pokemon anime, and we saw in this battle Ash's Staravia evolve into our Staraptor. And I was like, that's cool. Because I'd probably seen some of his Pokemon evolve, but it kind of made it like a personal moment. Like, it's my birthday, and they're celebrating my birthday by evolving his Pokemon. And that was just like it's a totally random memory that I don't think about very often. But when I think about the Pokemon anime, that's one of the few moments that sticks out to me because I watched a good amount of other episodes sporadically sprinkled around my life. There was a point in time when I got surprisingly into the Sun and Moon anime.
Hmm.
Probably 4 years ago or something. It was well after it had finished. But that anime has its own feel and its own structure, and I think it's actually really great because of that. But watching Brock and Ash and Misty and May and Max and uh to some extent watching the black and white anime with Silent and Iris. Um, those are all great memories for me. But I'm not an obsessive Pokemon anime fan. Those certainly still is important to me.
I was gonna say that you can't pay me to watch the Pokemon anime nowadays, but you probably could pay me to watch the Pokemon anime nowadays. It seems like a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think you probably enjoy that actually.
But I ju- I just think that hyper long form Pokemon anime storytelling is just not gonna work for me anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but my distinct memory with it is that I had uh, I had one of the Game Boy Advance video cartridges, and it had
Really?
yeah, it
I
had
never had any of those.
I had one. I got it from a secondhand like thrift shop. No, I actually had a lot of first-hand thrift shops. It's usually secondhand, but it had
First hand thrift shop. You know what that's called? Garage sale.
no, it's called H&M.
That sounds like a sex thing. Talk about your dumb cartridge.
But I believe that one of the episodes that was on it, I think it was Ash. He was in the Pokemon League. I forget who he was fighting. He might have been fighting Gary. He was fighting somebody with it was a Charizard versus a Blastoise. And that very clearly vague memory has never left my head. But
You have a vague memory of a nondescript episode.
let's move on. Huh? We're gonna come to my good friend and co-host of my Star Wars show, Andrew Orozco.
Please refer to him as Andrew Orozco of My Star Wars Show fame, as is this complete and full Christian name.
I apologize.
Mhm.
Andrew writes, my favorite Pokemon memory is in the original gold version when you realize the ship to the post game is taking you to Vermilion City. You can get all the badges from the Kanto region. That's mind-blowing for 10-year-old me. Like after the credits rolled, there's a whole nother game. It was insane.
That was the lowest energy mention of insanity that I've ever heard. What's your thoughts about this? I mean, I kind of described initially how I can't really connect to it because it's not something a memory I had personally. And frankly, going back to gold and silver or red and blue was very antiquated from my perspective
Yeah.
as a Gen 3, 4, 5 player.
I think Gen 1 is hard to go back to. I think Crystal holds up very well, actually. I just played Crystal again last year. Um, as for the whole like two region dealio, I don't know, it's neat.
It is neat, and it's impressive. It's a thing that really makes the Johto games stand out like a significant amount.
Yeah,
But I think what's interesting for me is I actually so I played Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I
yeah.
remember that coming out, had my Pokewalker, which of course we people our age and we all have memories with. But I never actually played through the Kanto portion of those games
Yeah.
because when I beat the Elite Four in a Pokemon game, unless I'm going for Pokedex completion, which I have in Gen 6 forward, I don't really care too much to dabble around. And again, the battling is not what's important to me. So I never played those, and frankly, it actually, and this is a very obviously very unpopular opinion, but the idea of adding another region in the post game, but not really, because it heavily impacts the level scaling and such of the first region, actually kind of makes Johto feel stunted to me. And it's part of the reason that personally, Gold and Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, while they're good games, they're far from my favorites. But that's obviously a very subjective thing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think Johto is a wonderful region. I think it kind of retains the rural charm of Kanto,
Yeah,
with more interesting locations.
yeah, I certainly
Um,
agree.
I don't think that Johto is damaged by Kanto being in there. I think Kanto is damaged by being a post-game area.
Sure.
I think it is probably the ultimate piece of post-game content in any Pokemon
Yeah,
game,
of course.
kind of indisputably. Um, Also, Gen 2 is supposed to be the end of Pokemon, so
Hmm.
Game Freak was like, you know what? Just take Kanto too. And I think the idea of revisiting Kanto with your new friends from Johto
Yeah.
is really quite remarkable in an era where obviously you couldn't take your Ampharos back to blue version, you
Hmm.
know. I think it's quite a wonderful feature, especially I can imagine in 1998
9.
nine,
Yeah.
when you didn't know that that was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, oh, now you're in Vermilion City. It's
Perfect.
quite wild.
Yeah, I didn't. Uh, I could be wrong about that. It's
No,
either
I think
98
you're
or
right.
99.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Tucker, why don't you read the last memory here?
it's not the last one because one Mr. Jordan D slid on under the wire because I DM'd him on Discord. So you read this next one and I'll finish up with Jordan's.
Okay. This comes from our good friend, young Samuel from Discord, who writes, I've loved Pokemon since I got Heart Gold when I was 8 years old and would take my DS to play it everywhere from my mom's office to school to church to football games to restaurants. I have a very vivid memory of beating white version's Elite Four in a booth at McDonald's. Also, one of my favorite Pokemon memories is probably walking around all my neighborhood with my Poke Walker. That disappeared, and I hope the Charmeleon that was in there is doing well.
We a moment of silence for all the Pokemon that got killed in washed Pokewalkers because I certainly lost my Pokewalker in the washing machine.
I
I was gonna
never
say the
had one.
dishwasher, but that would be weird.
I never got one. I always wanted one
Hmm.
because
How did you get the game without it? I thought it wasn't sold initially without it.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it at launch.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't get Heart Gold till a lot later, and it was just from a secondhand shop.
Hmm.
So I never had the
Was it
Pokewalker.
$90 or whatever those stupid games go for now?
No, this was back before the insane boost. So it was probably still like a retail 40, but it was not the
Sure.
fucking retail 900 that it is now.
Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I think Platinum and like Black and White 2 maybe are some of the most expensive games to get right now. Like if you're going into a retro shop and you
Yeah.
look at they've got the glass case with the GBA games and the Game Boy games and the DS games and the Vita cartridges that don't have cases, and you look at the little sticker on that copy of Heart Gold or Soul Silver, it's gonna be closer to 100 than anything should be. That's a really weird thing about today's market.
That's the biggest economic hurdle we face as Americans.
That's a great point. Yeah, 100%. Um, the final memory comes
Do you
from
think that, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you think that for the next episode of the night I should handcuff myself to the bed like Gerald's game?
now. Now, okay, this is now a new tangent. Gerald's game is a Pixar animated short about an old man playing chess. What the fuck are you referencing?
I'm referencing, no, the movie's called Gerald's Game for sure. It's a movie where the wife gets handcuffed to the bed. It's like a sex thing, but then the husband has like a heart attack, and she's stuck handcuffed to the bed.
Okay, no, you're right. Okay, no, you're right. There's a movie called Gerald's Game. Am I? What the fuck is the Pixar short? Is it also called Gerald's Game? No, Jerry's Game. Geri's Jerry's Game. Well, we just mixed up two streams that have not been crossed in a while. But our final memory comes from Jordan D, who says, one of my favorite Pokemon memories is me and my cousin playing Pokemon Puzzle League on the N64. It's truly one of the first uh I think this meant gaming, but faking. One of the first gaming experiences in general for me. Another really fun memory was like over 10 years later, me and that same cousin had a family vacation and each got a DS and a copy of Heart Gold and Soul Silver and raced to see who could get further by the end of the vacation. Now, this spins me off into a couple different directions that I want to talk about memories about. The idea of playing Pokemon games in your own formats, because I have a couple of memories about that. Me and my brother shared copies of Pokemon games when we were kids. He didn't get his copy of Diamond or Soul Silver until a year or so after I got mine. So what he would do is go to the home screen, click new game, and play the game for as long as he could until the DS ran out of battery, and that save was entirely wiped because you can't just save over
Yeah.
another game. It wouldn't allow you to do that. So that's really funny. But also, in terms of friends and I playing them in our own ways, we would do the only times I ever really did multiplayer battles is emptying out our party, except for with a Starly or a Bidoof or a Shinx or whatever, and going back to the first route and catching a team of only like first
Yeah.
route or two Pokemon and doing battles with just them. And that was just a fun way for us to avoid any horse shit of, oh, hey, your Pokemon are really over leveled. Oh, you got all these cool moves that I don't know exist. Like, scrap all that, and it comes down to Bidoof on Bidoof, who's gonna win. And that's a really fun way that we played the games.
I got 13,000 likes on some hot Bidoof action on Twitter one time.
That's true. I remember that. Yeah.
Um, so this really sparks two things in my mind. The first, as to battling, my friend Zach and I would battle like literally every day after school. But we would do weird stuff. We got big into breeding for egg moves and things. This is an
Hmm.
X and Y. So we did battles on level one Pokemon. But I would like
Oh,
have
really?
yeah, but I'd like have a level one Oshawott that knew Aqua Jet and things, like because we would just breed them to have all kinds of crazy fucking moves. Um, so that was really fun. The other memory I have, as per the vacation part of that, was Pokemon Go came out.
Oh my God, Pokemon Go. That's a whole tangent on its own.
Pokemon Go came out days before I went to Arizona with my grandparents. Um, and so I went from being like having the game for the first couple days in rural Maine, where literally nothing would show up unless I used an incense,
Yeah.
to being at the Grand Canyon or being in like Sedona or all these towns like over in the Midwest and West Coast, and just catching so many fucking Pokemon. Like that was probably the only time that I ever enjoyed playing Pokemon Go, really,
Sure.
because
Oh, interesting.
otherwise it's like, fuck, there's nothing for me to do. I
That's a
can't
great
do
point.
anything.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah. Pokemon Go again is a whole set of memories in and of itself, because that game comes out. I
Yeah,
I
it did.
I I'd heard of it. I remember downloading it. It comes out at like 10:30 at night or something. When I or at least when I downloaded it the first time. And trying to play it in my bed, but that doesn't really work. I don't know. Maybe I was able to catch like a Pidgey,
Yeah.
and that's about it. But really, what got me into Pokemon Go, and this is an exciting way that this game was able to sort of rekindle the Pokemon flame in frankly the entire world, because it's one of the most popular downloaded played games of
Yeah.
all time. Is me and my friends going on a small road trip to my friend's lake house with his parents, and the three of us playing Pokemon Go the entire time in the
Yeah.
back of the car. And when you're not driving and you can click that don't worry, I'm not driving even though going fast button, you can catch quite a few Pokemon when you stop at a stoplight. Pokemon spawn around you and you can flick them. And I remember a couple of times having his dad stop at like a Target or a Best Buy or whatever, because we're like, there's a Charizard over there, there's a Snorlax over there. Stop the car, pull over, get off the highway. We need to catch this Pokemon. And he would, diligent, kind, generous man, would pull off the highway, and all three of us would catch the Snorlax, and we would get right back on the road. And
You deserve to have him pull over the car. You get out and he drives away for that kind of behavior.
Yeah, my friend was pretty spoiled, so he kind of got what he wanted. But
I remember I had it down to a science. The 3 or 4 places on my drive to school every day
Mhm.
that had Pokestops. And I knew when I had to open the app for it to load in time for when my mom would slow down at the red light for me to
Yeah,
spin the Pokestop and
yeah,
catch
yeah,
something, or
exactly.
or at least buffer it quickly enough so it was in my game so I could throw a good ball and hopefully catch it as we were driving 60 miles an hour away. So
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely that science to, okay, the little circle around my character needs to be over the Pokestop for this
yeah.
amount of time for me to spin it and get the Pokeballs and revives and potions and whatever. But I had those exact same
Yeah.
memories. Like, oh, there's the Pokestop at the top of Lost Creek. That if I'm driving to school and my dad's pulling up there, okay, I'm passing by this stop sign, pull out the phone, make sure it's loaded up. Oh,
Yes.
perfect time. He's pulled away. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, plenty of memories of that.
Tucker, I think this has been a wonderful episode.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I'm feeling tired because this is Nintendo at night, and of course, this is being filmed at night for me, and you were in Australia. Just want to
Yeah.
reiterate that, make sure everyone knows.
So I gotta get up. I gotta get out of bed soon.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
morning for you. You got to go to class.
No, I'm on vacation. I'm not in class right now.
They don't have schools in Australia.
No.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you
You're welcome.
for officiating the return, consummating the return of Nintendo at night with me. We'll see you guys in the indiscriminate future.